Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and it's the Fantastic Four for Marvel Studios cast. We may have just gotten our first legitimate piece of casting news, as several outlets are reporting that Pedro Pascal is close to signing on as Reed Richards as of this taping. But who will make up the rest of the team? And what villain will Marvel finally choose to fight against their first family? This is a sneak peek where we take the temperature of whatever we are watching or looking forward to as we head into the next whatever era of our lives in nerdom. Joining me once again on this episode, the Sue to my Johnny, it's Maude Garrett.
It'd be so much funnier if you cut to me and there was no one in the seat and then I just appeared. But no, we blew that one.
Yep, that's why people were
I'm shielding.
Yes. All right, Maude, let's start off with the almost casting news reported by Deadline earlier this week. According to unnamed sources, Pedro Pascal is in talks to play Reed Richards in Marvel's upcoming Fantastic Four movie coming in 2025, directed by Matt Shakman. Deadline reports that the deal is, quote, far from done, and Marvel, of course, had no comment. But all of this may come down just to scheduling. Pascal already has a busy year in 2024. It was also reported this week that The Last of Us Season 2 is going to start production in January 7th in Vancouver. He's also in Gladiator 2, which began filming in Morocco last summer, but that had to halt production once the strikes began. Pascal is also slated to be in Zach Krieger's next film, Weapons, which will also shoot in 2024. Shakman told Collider back in October that Fantastic Four will begin shooting sometime in 2024. The film is slated to release May 2nd, 2025, but that date, is still probably, up in the air.
What'll happen. Yeah.
So what do we think about Pedro Pascal adding to the MCU his nerd fandom trophy room? Because he's already got Star Wars, Game of Thrones, the DCEU, because he was in Wonder Woman 84, and The Last of Us in that collection. Is this really the best use of this talented actor for Marvel Studios?
Look, hands down, I love Pedro Pascal. I think he's fantastic. I've loved him in all of these properties. I think his hot scale is on the rise. With the strikes, if there have been this many delays with shooting, and he's already locked on to sign those, contracts signed, he's committed, he doesn't have the luxury of saying no or like moving on from that. He's going to have to balance it. And when they dictate the shoot, he almost has to say yes to that. I think that there are a number of castings out there. I don't think that this is a done deal just yet, although usually a leak like this doesn't happen unless it's a sure thing. I actually think that a dynamic is more important here. So you could be like, yeah, we've got Pedro Pascal, but if you don't have the right Sue, the right Johnny, the right thing, then it's like it's not going to be a coherence. I mean, if we could learn anything from Jessica Alba as Sue Storm, just because they're hot right now doesn't mean they're going to fit in with everything. In saying that, though, I actually don't want Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards.
You don't?
I don't. I know that we had John Krasinski in that blink and you miss it moment, but there's just something about seeing him suited up that I really liked. And that rumor had been going around for so long, and having Emily, his wife, as Sue Storm, having that kind of chemistry, my heart kind of like latched onto that in a bit. So I feel like it's a bit of a curveball to try and like unsee those two as Mr. and Mrs. Richards, but I don't hate it, so it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I get that. I loved the idea of Krasinski and Emily Blunt in the role. Yeah. I also know how difficult it is to be part of the Marvel franchise, and I don't want to put any married couple, even especially a healthy married couple, through that ringer. Because it can be a nightmare. It can honestly be a nightmare to have to work on these movies and go on a publicity tour. It's a lot. They got a family, That said, I think Pedro Pascal, yes, he is between The Last of Us and The Mandalorian, kind of like the it actor, but I don't think it's been of the moment. I think since he appeared as Oberyn Tyrell in Game of Thrones 10 years ago, he's kind of been the guy of the decade. Like,
was that 10 years ago?
It was so long ago. And a chemistry test, yeah, I agree with you, Maude. That is most important.
Yes.
His chemistry with Sue Storm, with Ben Grimm, with Johnny Storm, so important. And so I'm curious to learn later what the chemistry test, if they are doing any. But what he has proven, Pedro Pascal as a performer, is that he can have chemistry with anybody. He can have flirty chemistry with basically everyone in season 4 of Game of Thrones. He can have chemistry with Bella Ramsey with a kid. He can have chemistry with a puppet. through a
Acting
mask.
chemistry. Acting chemistry, to clarify.
Yeah.
Acting
Oh, yeah,
chemistry.
it was
Yeah,
cle
yeah.
just yeah, acting
Yeah.
chemistry. I'm sorry if that wasn't clear. Yeah, the
I got you.
guy it started with Game of Thrones where it was, like, real sexy
Yeah, yeah,
chemistry, but
yeah.
yeah, just a connection on screen that feels like a humanistic thing so that they're not just emoting to the camera, but they're emoting to their scene partner,
Mhm.
and I think he can pull that off. I think what Marvel Studios is probably looking at right now is a star who's gonna give them bang for their buck, and he did not, okay, don't mince words what I'm saying from with bang for their buck. What I'm saying is that this guy is a star and he's a known quantity. And I think Marvel has they've had some bad luck, but also probably just some misfortune with casting newcomers.
Right.
And they heavily invested in Chadwick Boseman. I'm not saying Chadwick Boseman had to disclose his diagnosis to them, but I know there's probably someone at Marvel Studios who's like, damn it, we really, really wanted him to be the star of our universe.
I think it's such a big ask to say, "Hey, when you sign this contract, we kinda own you for the next 10 years
Yeah.
minimum." Because
Right.
anything can happen in that time. I think a bigger catastrophe was Ezra Miller, where
Yeah.
it's like, "We're gonna make you the face of the next
Uh-huh.
phase of superheroes." The Flash is such an important character to so many people, and he just kind of got a little bit reckless, with
Hmm.
his reputation, with his actions, and it's like,
Yes.
when you and I guess the pressure of, like, when you have that um amount of pressure being put on you, I think you've got some actors that handle it incredibly well, like Chris Evans, who
Hmm.
really maintains sort of what the integrity of Captain America on and off screen. But then, that's when things get a bit murky. And I think Pedro Pascal's kind of proven himself as a stable actor.
Agreed. Yeah, and I want to make something clear. This is not me like endorsing Marvel's way of doing it because I think they are honestly reverting to the original studio method of signing almost lifetime contracts with actors. And I think there's something kind of messed up about that where they just own people forever. It worked with Robert Downey Jr. because he was getting his end of it. If you read that MCU book, man, that guy was making tens of millions of dollars by like the third role that he
Which is
showed
so
up
funny
in.
because that first movie really resurrected his career,
It really did.
you
It
know?
really did.
Yeah.
And I think Marvel felt like, well, if we could work with Robert Downey Jr. despite all of his legal troubles before, we can work with people who don't have perfect records, but it's different. It
Mhm.
2006 was one year, 2023 is a different year. And just
100%
the
agree.
world is different. We expect different things from our actors and it's precarious now to keep with that business model of once you cast a role, they stay that role for the next decade.
Mhm.
Like if they had an attitude of like, okay, well we'll sign you for one movie and then we'll recast you if we have to because we're in a multiverse saga,
True.
like they are so bent on sticking to this continuity of like one and I think honestly it's toys, right? It's because
Right.
once they make a toy, they want the likeness to look like that character for the next 10
Although,
years.
how many Spider-Men have we had? How many Batman have we had? So
Good
there
point.
is you'll get like a
Yeah.
trilogy, you'll get an arc, and then it's like if that story works, they can keep telling it as many times as they want to tell it.
Yeah.
I actually think that when you have someone like Leonardo DiCaprio famously tell Timothy Chalamet, sorry, don't do a superhero movie.
Yeah.
I think that's when the reputation is kind of going. It was really good way back when. Now it's not funny. Scarlett Johansson has sued Marvel, because of discrepancies in pays. Like it's
Right.
getting a bit fickle and ooh.
That's what
Pedro
I think
Pascal,
is it's yeah, I think that's what's
good guy.
shaping this Pedro Pascal approach is like he's worked in the industry in high profile starring roles for a long time now. And I don't think they have to worry about that. I mean, if you watch a guy at like Comic Con or Star Wars Celebration,
He's happy to be
he's
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's such a team player.
hmm
And I think that's what they need right now.
There's so few. Like, I mean, this is my industry, right? I meet celebrities and interview them all the time. So I get this version of them. There are so few still that love what they do. Jack Black's one of them. Tom Cruise, surprisingly, one of them.
Yeah.
This guy knows the business and is
Uh-huh.
just such a support of filmmaking. that like he shows up, he goes above and beyond. That's why he's doing his own stunts and like testing the limit each time. But to get someone like that, someone who's proven themselves, and I think you're right, Pedro is one of those people.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice. He's 48 years old. So we would be getting. I'm just imagining his most recent high profile role, which is Joel, and they aged him up as
Hmm.
Joel in The Last of Us. So he's younger than Joel is on that show, I believe. Right? I might be wrong about that.
I think he
I believe
is. I
he's
think yeah, they bumped him a
yeah.
bit because there was like
Yeah.
that big
So
time jump. Yeah.
but even then, he seems to me like a warrior, kind of like just between the lone gunslinger of the Mandalorian and Joel. Like that's what people see him as. I think a lot of people forget that he was Oberyn Martell. Oberyn Martell is not. He's more of a Johnny Storm figure than a Reed Richards is for sure. But on the Mandalorian, he has proven himself capable of doing very technical dialogue. I think we forget like he has to like get through a lot of like interesting. So when I think of Reed Richards, he has to be the smartest one in the room. He has to be the scientist in the room,
Hmm.
and that's when I first heard Pedro Pascal. I'm like, I almost see him more as Ben Grimm than I do
Mm.
Reed Richards, but I think he can do it. He is a front man. He does have star power, and that's something that they need in this role. And I think if he can be the face of this franchise, which I think he can be, that's what's most important. I think he is a very versatile actor, and I don't want to pigeonhole him into like the weary Western gunslinger roles that he's played recently.
I also something that I really don't want to have happen as well. And this is Hollywood, and this is like one thing I'd love to kind of be broken down a little bit more. Um, if he's going to be Reed Richards and he's 48 years old, I really don't want a 28-year-old Sue Storm.
Please,
I'm really
please.
over those age
Yep.
discrepancies. I don't think it's realistic, and I don't want to keep perpetuating it. Like, there's just so many instances where there's such a huge age gap between love interests on camera. And I know Vanessa Kirby, I think she's around 37.
She's
Um,
35.
she's 35. She's 35. So that's not ridiculous, but it's still 13 years, you know? They didn't meet in college together.
Hey, it's
She was 5 when he was in
half your age
college.
plus 7 is what some people say.
Mm.
Look, don't look. If you know people in your lives, viewer, who have big age gaps, we're not judging.
It's
We're
not like
just
that
saying
at all. It's just that this is the
Hollywood.
norm. Like,
Hollywood
it
treats
is.
this as a norm, and that age gap gets wider and wider, and that historically it's very weird. It's
Yeah.
really weird.
They get older and you stay the same age. No.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. That's kind of the name of the game. So we're not saying that it's wrong. We know what the laws are. We're just saying Hollywood presents this imagery as if this is what's normal, and it's never lopsided. It is never an older woman with a younger guy, unless that's the joke of it.
Mm.
Like, ooh, look at this cougar, Samantha from Sex and the City. Isn't that so risque? It's never just normal. I know there are some probably instances, but like statistically, it's just so rare to see it lopsided. That's what we're talking
And I'm trying to break that stigma single-handedly.
about. Single-handedly, Maud, what is going on in your life right now?
Nothing at all. Hey, let's go back to some of the almost casting rumors that happened.
Yeah.
Apparently, Deadline said earlier this week that there were like other people in talks, that there
Hmm.
were other. Wait, was that Deadline or was that someone else? I forgot.
Well, our colleague Jeff Snyder of the Hot Mic podcast, he has been talking quite a bit about these rumors, and he said that just before the SAG-AFTRA strike began over the summer, that a few actors had been screen tested for the role, including Christopher Abbott.
Now he's really cute. He's got beautiful brown eyes with really thick eyelashes. Sorry.
Thank you for clarifying that,
Mm,
Maud.
you're welcome.
You may know Christopher Abbott from It Comes at Night and Sanctuary, very talented, as well as Jamie Dornan from 50 Shades of Grey
Hmm.
and Belfast. And wasn't he in that true crime show that I saw on Netflix that was from the UK?
Possibly. Possibly.
Where with Gillian Anderson in it?
Now,
Am I
Jamie
wrong?
Dornan's good. I can
Jamie
see him
Dornan's
being,
awesome.
yeah, I could see him being a bit of a Richard Reed, but apparently they didn't go very well, those tests.
Yes.
Ugh, wouldn't you
That's
hate that
according to
for
Jeff
that
Snyder.
for that to get leaked?
Yeah, you don't want look, and James Gunn has said before that he doesn't like sharing information about actors' screen tests because that's just like unfair to the
You could have a
actors.
bad day. I burst
You have
into
a bad day.
tears once during an audition.
You can find my old screen test for new Rockstars where I decided to wear a shirt the same color as this backdrop, and I definitely didn't get it. But like my friends who I had recommended for the job from the improv community got it instead of me. So
You
that's how
didn't get
Hollywood
it?
works. No, I didn't get the job. I was deemed too ugly to be a new Rockstars host. In so many words.
Who's
Basically.
getting the laugh last? Wait, last
Who's
laugh
getting?
now.
I'm getting the lost laugh. Yeah. But actually, after those tests maybe didn't go well, they started looking at Jake Gyllenhaal. And a lot of people were like, wait, he played Mysterio in the MCU.
Yeah.
No, this is what I'm saying. Like, get away from that. Like, just let actors play different roles.
Sure.
You know, Gemma Chan did it. We're all good with it.
Yeah, but it's Gemma freaking Chan. Come on.
Chan. Yeah.
She's the most beautiful woman on the planet.
A
Jake
report-
Gyllenhaal's also quite good looking, but his name is too big. I just kind of think there's enough. This is like a great opportunity to have another name at the table. You know, a lot of guys will get their acting careers like kicking off at 35 to 40. Give one of those guys a chance.
Gyllenhaal reportedly wanted too much money. Also, like, he's like, look, one of my ex-girlfriends just keeps writing songs about me.
She hates me. And now all her fans hate me. Just give
Um,
the scarf back, dude.
Give the scarf back. Apparently, Jeff Snyder also said that like Emma Stone was being considered for Sue Storm, but also would have wanted too much money. Which begs the question: should Pedro Pascal be asking for more money?
At this stage, yeah. Dude should be making bank. Less work, more money. That's where he's at right now.
If your holiday plans include taking a winter vacation, now is the time to start brushing up on practical phrases you'll need to get around wherever you're headed. That's where Mondly comes in. Mondly is one of the top language education apps worldwide, letting you mix and match from 33 native languages to any of 41 foreign languages, with everything from French and Spanish to Catalan, Farsi, and Finnish. Mondly uses speech recognition to provide real-time feedback on your pronunciation, and all of Mondly's lessons are recorded by native speakers, so you are hearing the language as it's meant to be heard. The lessons are focused on practical content that you'd use every day and are structured around daily, weekly, and monthly quizzes to make it easy to review and recap what you've learned. Mondly has over 110 million users, and it's not hard to see why. Mondly is currently having an exclusive sale with a 96% discount for a limited time offer. Whoa! To get a lifetime of Mondly for only $89.99, click the link in the description or go to mondly.com/newrockstars. I'm not wearing a New Rockstars shirt right now. I'm sorry. I just hopped off a plane. But we have some amazing New Rockstars merch. We got a God of Stories shirt inspired by the Loki finale. We got a great Flurkin shirt inspired by the wonderful Flurkins of the Marvels. It's the best way to support the channel. And there's lots of just great options. NerdRiot.shop. And don't forget to subscribe to all 3 channels in the New Rockstars network: New Rockstars, The Break Room, and The Deep Dive.
You're not going to say it. It's Christmas coming up soon. If you need a present for a nerd, that's your best bet.
It is. It
Great.
really is.
Mhm.
Yep.
Now let's talk about the rest of the Marvel First family. We've got some front runners happening here. I mentioned her a little bit earlier, Vanessa Kirby for Sue Storm. If you don't know Vanessa Kirby, she's been in the Mission Impossible movies. She's delightful. She was in The Crown. I'm a big fan of hers. Again, it depends who her Mr. Reed Richards is going to be, though. We got Joseph Quinn, who's going to be Johnny Storm, mayhaps. Joseph Quinn from Stranger Things. He absolutely
so
crushed
good.
it for that one. And I actually like that casting. I think that could be a lot of fun. I want to see him a little bit more cheeky, a little bit more F-boy. And then Eben Moss Bachrach for Ben Grimm. I don't think I'm saying his name correctly, and for that I apologize. But I had to look him up, and he was in Netflix's newly released Jennifer Lawrence movie, the one where she gets absolutely naked, and he has a sort of a bit role as a tow truck driver.
Oh, not just that, Mod. He's in The Bear playing Cousin. So good in that show, and was my favorite thing. He was my comfort food in season 2 of
But is he
The
Ben
Bear.
Grimm?
Yes, he could be anything. That guy is like, I think, top 3 actors working right now. He was in Andor. He played like the guy in Andor episode 4 and 5 and 6, the Aldhani arc. No, it was before that. It was like the mission where they had the big like meteor shower mission. He was on that crew and just fit into Star Wars perfectly. He was in Girls. He played like a manic boyfriend of one of the girls. Like, he's been around forever. Oh, he was in John Adams, the HBO. I clearly have been following this guy for his entire career. I'm obsessed.
I mean, I'm not saying he's a bad actor. I just don't see him as Ben Grimm.
Oh no, he can do it.
I see him more as Uncle Ben.
If anything, it's a crime that they're going to be covering up with like rock skin, because he is so good. I mean, he could be Johnny Storm. He could be Reed Richards. He could be anybody. It's clear that like Sarah Haley Finn is like, I'm going to put you in somewhere in this universe. Like, he could be Silver
Your daddy.
Surfer. He could be Doom. Like, this guy
Oh,
is
I
so good.
if we're going there, are we gonna go there right now?
Yeah, let's go there.
Doctor Doom?
Let's
I
talk
have
Doom.
what I think could be a
Uh-huh.
great casting for it. I mean, it was Julian McMahon in the last Fantastic Four, which I think he got
Uh-huh.
underplayed in, but he's Australian, so I have to have a little bias there. Now, this is an actor who got done real dirty by DC and then Netflix. And I think that he needs his comeuppance. Brilliant actor, absolutely gorgeous, but we've never really seen him as like the evil bad guy. We got a taste of it when Henry Cavill was The Witcher, but I think Henry Cavill could be a great Doctor Doom. Longer
Sure.
hair, a little bit messed up, and just permission to get real kooky and spooky.
Kooky and spooky. Hey,
Yeah.
I'll watch Henry Cavill do anything in the MCU. Anything. I think this is another star who could do it. He could be Johnny Storm. He could be Reed Richards. Maybe not Johnny Storm. He's a little too big and old
Yeah,
for
he's too
Johnny
ripped
Storm.
now. But
Too ripped.
I just think that when you remember how James Gunn was like Marvel's champion, and then Marvel kind of discarded him for a little bit, and so he went to
Mm.
DC and gave him his best stuff, and then Marvel's like, please come back. That's what I see happening for Henry Cavill.
You think so? Marvel Studios traded James Gunn for Henry Cavill is what should happen.
That's what's
That's what.
happening.
Hey, that sounds great, Mod. Too bad it's probably gonna be Giancarlo Esposito. You know it's gonna be Giancarlo Esposito. Like
I don't hate
that
that either.
guy, he's in the mix. Like
But
they're
he's
gonna
already played a Marvel villain, not Marvel, but like a Disney villain.
across from Pedro Pascal. They're
Yeah.
gonna do that. He's another guy they just want to put in everything. He's so good at playing a villain. I just think
Make
we're
him Johnny Storm.
we can speculate on it, but I guarantee you it's gonna be like 2 weeks from now. They'll be like, yeah, it's
Ooh.
just Giancarlo Esposito, and we'll be like, oh, okay, so it's just
Well,
Mandalorian hero and villain and the Fantastic Four, and then it'll be like, oh, I guess that could work.
it's
like,
worked before. If it ain't
I,
broke, don't fix
I
it.
haven't. I'm not quoting anyone. I have no inside sources. I just feel like that's what they're gonna do.
Well, Jeff Snyder on the Hot Mic podcast thinks that the cast is going to be announced the first week of December. That's like 3 weeks' time.
Ooh, ooh, coming
So we
up.
don't have to wait for too long.
We don't have to wait for too long. I think Snyder also said, and I heard this somewhere, that they're looking at Javier Bardem for Galactus, but it would just be like his voice and maybe some mocap stuff. I think, didn't we hear Antonio Banderas was being considered for Galactus as well?
I like to eat the galaxies. Nom nom nom.
Is that your Banderas?
Mhm.
Yeah, cool. Sounds good. I mean, I also saw some reporting that like because they have it like locked in with Sue, Johnny, and Ben, and they're all white, that they needed some diversity. But I think Pedro Pascal, like, he's not just a quote unquote diversity hire. He is a star in his own
Mm.
right, and he can play
Mhm.
anything. Yeah. So we'll
I
see.
totally forgot about Michael B. Jordan being the last Human Torch. Totally forgot about Kate Mara. Totally forgot Miles Teller. I forgot. I think I was
It's
supposed
okay.
to. I think that's what they wanted us to
Uh-huh.
do.
Uh-huh. That
Successfully done.
timeline is currently being pruned by the TVA. It's just taking them some time. They'll
All I
get
can
to it.
think about is when Johnny Storm was skiing and he fell in the snow, but because he's the Human Torch, it ended up being like a little hot tub for him.
So we were talking about Doctor Doom in terms of casting, but let's talk about Doctor Doom in terms of like franchise building, because what real news that came out this week: Destin Daniel Cretton has left Avengers Kang Dynasty. He's no longer directing it, which is
I
a
think that
bummer.
they worded it like that. Can I be real with you? I don't think
Go
that they're
for it.
going to do it at all. I think they've changed the finale to completely step away from a Kang dynasty. And the way that they've done it is that Dustin Daniel Cretton gets his integrity intact. And they say that he's left it. I don't think the project's going to exist again. I don't think it's going to exist anymore.
Wow.
Mm.
Wow. So you think
Mhm.
they're going to go straight to Secret Wars?
Mm-hmm.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that. But here's the thing. I think there's many at the studio who think that the franchise needs more Avengers films, not less Avengers films.
I think that they're trying to. I think they did such a successful job with building up everyone's origin story and then having the teams, come together, that they're holding on to the brilliance that was. Now, I know that you and I have very different measures of like how we appreciated the Avengers coming together in that way. But I think that the more that they expand, and Star Wars is going through the same thing, they were holding on to the Skywalker saga for so long that the more that they expand, the more they're like, I don't think it's working as much. And I think overall, this is Disney's biggest problem. They build out the core so much that there's not enough to hold on to, or like to bring the next phases or the next eras. What am I trying to say? You know, there's not enough to make that as successful. And I think what's happening with the Marvels, with the television shows and the other slate that's put out there, their brightest light was at the beginning. So I don't know.
You know, I think that might be
That's
accurate, but I think
that's why they want to bring it back.
what we'll see, I think they're gonna have 2 Avengers movies on the slate. I
What,
think
Young Avengers or?
no, what I'm thinking is it'll either be some version of Kang Dynasty that might get renamed if they do move away from Kang, and then we'll have Secret Wars, or they'll go straight to Secret Wars and make it a part 1 and part 2. Like kind of Infinity War part 1 and part 2, and then in part 2 ended up being called Endgame.
But no one, I don't think that the hype for Secret Wars is going to be there just for the name. You need
I
to
think it
have
will. No, man,
facets
no. People are
facets
fucking
of
pumped for it.
storytelling to like
Yeah.
cliffhanger to then solve it in a part 1, part
Sure,
2.
but
But there
as
needs to be
soon as you
more
get
build up.
Deadpool and Wolverine, the table's set for Secret Wars. I think as soon as you get X-Men on screen, people are
There
ready
it
for it.
is. I think that Fantastic Four is going to be the catalyst for mutants. I know that don't want to spoil anything, but there has been a hint about mutant universe being there. But I have a feeling that Fantastic Four, maybe it's not going to come out in time, but my theory was the importance of Fantastic Four, this iteration, was that Reed Richards was looking into the multiversal kind of structure, the equilibrium, the mathematics to kind of do interdimensional travel. And I thought that it would be the Fantastic Four crew that go interdimensionally and discover the mutants. Now, my favorite thing about X-Men, especially in the 90s cartoon, was that opening shot where you have 2 sets of mutants going for it. But then you realize that over the course of X-Men that those mutants have to then team up because humanity is so scared of them.
Mm.
I think it'd be really cool if this world's versions of a superhero is that world's version of a mutant. And it's both sides thinking the other's the threat. And then you realize the threat is anyone who doesn't have superpowers, which is kind of the story of Gen V. But
Sure.
I'd like it to be Reed Richards that kind of discovers the interdimensional travel is what I'm trying to say.
See, I think it's already kind of been discovered. I think Reed Richards is just going to give us a language for it. I think mutants. I don't know if Marvel can wait for a Fantastic Four movie. I mean, we've already seen Beast, we've seen Charles Xavier, we're going to see Wolverine before that, and Kamala Khan's a mutant. I think Deadpool's going to just spill mutants into the multiversal
Oh my gosh.
plane.
I want like an Acme button that is like, what is this? Boom. And that's how it happens. That's what I would love.
Hey, it's Deadpool. It's possible.
Yeah.
I think Reed's gonna give us like a glossary of terms for how this all works, which a version of Reed has already done in Multiverse of Madness. We'll get that in Fantastic Four. I think you're right, Mod. I can imagine the studio dissolving whatever plans they had for Kang Dynasty, but I think they'll jump straight to Secret Wars because I think somewhere, I think might be Feige is just saying, well, we can't have mutants on the ground in the MCU until we've had the Secret Wars event. And there's probably some people at Marvel Studios who are like, well, then we need to get to Secret Wars faster so that we can just have like a Storm miniseries. We can have our Jubilee miniseries.
I think they need to get to Secret Wars faster because now that Loki season 2 is done and it doesn't look like there's going to be a season 3, they need the next big thing. And at the moment it is Deadpool, but like, ooh, that next year is looking empty.
A lot of stuff is being configured, and I think that's why everything was delayed. We still have Deadpool in place because Deadpool's going to be fine either way, but I think they're going to take these months to reconfigure the game plan. They may already have the new game plan, and it wouldn't surprise me if Doctor Doom is at the center of it. We'll find out in the next few days.
I mean, they're going to blame it on the strike. And I think there is a big, there is effects from the strike happening. But I think that they also thought that this last phase would have gone gangbusters. And there's been some hits, but there's been some misses.
Sure. And there's only been misses because they just greenlit everything because the directive from Chapek was, we need streaming content.
Money!
Yeah.
Money! Oh, yeah, that too. Disney Plus. Agree. Robert Kirkman apparently let something slip.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about that.
Robert Kirkman, while promoting Invincible, starring Stephen Yeun as Mark Grayson, Invincible, just kind of blabbed that Stephen Yeun's going to be playing Sentry in an upcoming Thunderbolts film. Now, this was speculated for months and months and months that Stephen Yeun's going to be playing, but it was never confirmed. But yeah, this coming from a director who's worked with him and his friend. So does this make Kirkman a scooper?
I hope so.
Is Robert Kirkman My Time to Shine? Hello. Is he? Can we get some toast?
I don't get that reference.
Oh, Maude. You know what? I hope you never do understand that reference. I hope you can just stay out of this scary, scary world of online scoopers. It's a dangerous Wild West down here in the trenches, Maude, and you don't need to be part of it.
As an entertainment reporter, my personal slogan is I'm not in the business of ruining lives.
I like that. That's
I
a
have
good
so
mantra.
many things that I've heard and I have firsthand knowledge of, and I'm just like, nope. I'd hate it to be done to me. I'm not going to do it to someone else.
I like that.
Let's
What a
get that
great-
heat check, though.
Yeah, heat check. You know what? I'm feeling good. I think some people are, clutching their pearls as we all expected about the box office performance of the Marvels, but I think it's gonna be fine. I think soon they're gonna announce this lineup. It may even be announced by the time you're watching this, and then everyone's gonna be excited for the future of Marvel. I'm totally okay with Pedro Pascal, just because I know he is a great actor. And whatever they need Reed Richards to be, I think he can rise to the occasion.
It is so funny that I could see Pedro as Ben, as Johnny. Hell,
As
put a wig
Sue.
on him as Sue. Yeah, like he has that versatility, which is great. But I'd like to hear from everyone in the comments. Can you fan cast your Fantastic Four? Who do you see as Reed Richards, Sue Storm? Who are you seeing as Johnny Storm? Who are you seeing as Ben Grimm? I'd love to get your fan casts happening in that chat. It's not locked in yet. It ain't over till it's over. So I want to hear from you what you think with that one. And thanks so much for watching.
Yeah, we'll leave it there for this episode of The Sneak Peek. Be sure to follow Maude at Maude Garrett. You can follow me at EA Voss. Follow New Rockstars on all socials and subscribe to all 3 of our channels. And we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining me for this chat, Maude. It's been great.
Thank you for having me. Pickle. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.